Stamp duty, the $1 million question. A lot of people have been speaking about we need a new system. There is a new system proposed. If you want to hear about it, stay tuned and watch the show. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Morning Minutes. Myself, Michael Bergio, Mark Novak, special guest accountant of the show, Harry. Good morning.
Good morning, guys.
Today, we're going to be talking about stamp duty, the current model, which a lot of people know of, and have been sort of cheering for something new to happen, and also the new proposed model that could come into action as early as March this year. We're going to be talking about what's better, pros and cons, and if you're just a typical person looking to buy, how will it affect you? Gents, Harry, I think we've said this on the show many times, especially with the current economy at the moment, is property is just going to be sort of built up because it's revenue for the country, revenue for state, especially while other money-making mechanisms like tourism, immigration are down. And what we've sort of touched on briefly, this could be a door to really incentivize higher transactions for property, lower the barrier to get into property, because stamp duty has always been a bit of a hurdle. As hard as it is saving the 20%, stamp duty is about 4% of the property price, can be $30,000, $50,000, $100,000. So anything that helps with minimizing that is something that will prick up people's ears, but there's always pros and cons to it. Isn't that right?
Yeah, certainly. Look, stamp duty has been around for over 150 years. And as you say, it's been a massive hurdle for buyers getting into the market. It's taking a fair amount of time to save for a 20% deposit, let alone the additional stamp duty cost that you need to save. And with property prices increasing, as stamp duty is assessed on the market value of the property, you can just see how harder it's getting for people to save that additional stamp duty value. So, yeah, exactly right. It's a huge hurdle for people.
Because a lot of people, like stamp duty, when it was last changed or advised, I think we looked at it at one show, Mark, I think it was 50 years ago when the average price was like 100 grand. So, and you look, and
1985-ish. And so what's that, the 35 years ago?
So like the stamp duty was just a small portion. But then when you look at the median price is now like $1 million, 1.1. Yeah. I don't know if they ever thought it would become so large. And a lot of people are going like, this is out of whack. When you look at the model of stamp duty, like you're talking about prices at 80 grand, 100 grand when it came in. Like a lot of people have always said it may be a little outdated.
Yeah. And the difficulty is, Michael, is it's assessed on the market value of the property. So as property values go up, your stamp duty goes up. So this new proposal...
Clever government.
Yeah. Well, they probably didn't expect property values to increase so large when they set up stamp duty in the first place. So that was the initial problem, in my opinion. Yeah.
Well, if you think about $1 million in the mid-'80s, that probably represented about, if it's doubled, that probably represented about $7 million today. So they thought, okay, well, if you're over $7 million, we're going to whack you for 4%. But the problem is that that's now become an everyday price for in some suburbs, even for a unit. That's the problem.
And I'm just bringing it up, like you can tell how outdated it is when, look at it, $0 to $14,000, 14 to 31,000, 31 to 83, and obviously the percentage above is what we're all working on. But whenever you're starting at potential prices at $14,000, you're like, hang on, this system isn't really working. So let's dive into it. I think a big question people will be asking, I own my family home. I'm looking to buy an investment property. And what if I had the choice, because we spoke off here, you actually will have the potential option of choosing the current model and the new proposed. So let's put ourselves in the mum and dad second investment property, and tell us what you would recommend, or what would be the key things, the questions they should ask themselves, like how they're buying and what their plans are for the property, to choose which would be better. Harry.
Okay, so to answer your particular scenario, you're looking at a second purchase of a home as an investment property. The key question to ask is, what is your investment horizon in purchasing the property? So do you want to invest this investment property, renovate this investment property and flip and buy a new one within a couple of years? Or do you want to purchase and hold this investment property for years to come and possibly pass down to your children or family members? If you want to renovate and flip, then you're probably better off paying the annual property tax. If you want to invest and hold for the long term, look, the stamp duty is still an option for you, and that would be the better option. However, critically, if you do elect to opt in to the property tax model, any future purchaser of your investment property also has to pay the property tax moving forward, so they don't have a choice.
So can you explain the property tax, what that would be? So, explain the difference between the stamp duty and the property tax model.
Yeah, so the stamp duty
Just quickly before you do, anyone who's just started watching, we are talking about stamp duty. The government is talking about an option of two: keep the old system, or the new system is a pay-as-you-go. Back over to you, and Harry's our accountant working through it, the numbers with you today. Back over to you, Harry.
Yeah. So with the stamp duty, it's assessed on the market value of the property. So 4% of whatever you purchase the property for. But the property tax model is assessed on the unimproved land value. So similar to how council rates work. So your property tax is assessed on the land value of the property. So on $1 million as an owner-occupier, you're looking at around $3,500 per year to pay on that. If you are buying it outright and you want to pay stamp duty, then you're paying about close to $40,000. So there's a big saving there.
And that's what you meant by if you're holding it long term, because if you're paying $3,500 a year and you have it for 20 years, you're paying $65,000 in the property tax. But if you just paid stamp duty up front, you're only paying $40,000. So you'll be paying more in the long run that way.
Yeah, look, the modelling is around 14 years on $1 million property as an owner occupier. If you want to live in it for more than 14 years, you're probably better off paying stamp duty. But if you want to buy a new one, sell it, buy a new one within the 14 years, you're probably better off paying annual property tax.
Now, Mark? if you're a landlord at the moment, you've probably got a bit of a sore head around. If you're a landlord at the moment, you've probably got a sore head around tax every year that you're paying, right? So land tax. Land tax is every year I'm hearing more and more landlords whinge about land tax. Now, land tax was payable as you go. This is a model. This is an as you go model as well. Yeah. I can't help to think that it's going to be once they've got you. We're doing modelling at the moment over 14 years. Sounds pretty good, but I can't help but to think that in hard times, or when they use it almost like the Reserve Bank does with interest rates, they use it to regulate the market. They use stamp duty to regulate the market. It's scary.
Yeah, just on that, Mark, a very important point. With as an investment owner, if you are paying land tax and you opt in to pay property tax, the property tax model substitutes the land tax as well. So you don't need to pay land tax if you opt in to property tax.
That's big. Okay.
Yeah.
So Yeah.
Jeezy, you're so smart. So smart.
So that's
It's all out
another
there for people to read. It's public information, but yeah, most people don't know that this is coming into place. So it's important we talk about it.
Yeah. Now, let's say you were planning to have it for, I'm just trying to think, maybe you chose the property tax model because you wanted that property, you couldn't afford to pay the full stamp duty, and then you're thinking about maybe keeping it 5 years, but you're coming up to that 14 years. Would you advise, because then if you keep it for another 30 years, you could be paying triple stamp duty. Would you sort of just sell, buy something else, or can you do something if you are going to hold it for 30 years and you actually opted in for the pay as you go?
Look, the difficult thing is once you opt in, you can't really opt out. So it's important you get good advice initially when you are purchasing the property. And you set yourself up for your investment horizon, so you know what you're going to do with it. It's people don't have that freedom anymore. If you are sort of electing to opt into the annual property tax, you can't sort of change your mind halfway through and say, "Oh, I should have paid stamp duty." If you do want to, in that case, you're probably better off selling what you've got and then buying another one and opting in to pay the stamp duty if you do want to hold it for the long term.
Now, there's going to be some handicapping done as well. So if you buy a property and you nominate to do the pay-as-you-go stamp duty, it sits with me easier when I say it that way. That pay-as-you-go stamp duty must always remain with the property for the rest of the life of that property.
Correct.
That property will be handicapped to only offer that. So us as real estate agents may be marketing that you can do pay-as-you-go stamp duty or a one-off stamp duty when we market a property. That's weird.
And properties that have that choice, in my opinion, would be more desirable because it'll give you options for a larger pool of buyers. So it could create a two-tier property market if it does come into place.
Yeah, because where it will really handicap that property, which is, say, it could be the forever home. It could just be not like a property that it's not really an investment property. And if you have to buy it under the pay to go, knowing if you keep it longer than 14 years, you're going to be paying more than it would have been if you just paid it up front, could bring some hesitation. But then on the flip side, if you actually go into a bit more detail with the client, because that could be their first thought, but then you say, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, you actually own 3 properties. You would normally, well, even though you wouldn't on your principal residence, pay land tax. If you don't put this somewhere, or you would save land tax on it. Well, actually, that sort of wouldn't work as well, because your principal residence, you wouldn't pay land tax. No. So you would be stuck paying the pay-as-you-go over 30 years, paying more than before. So that's where it could really handicap the forever home model.
Your forever home, if it's your forever home, you're better off paying stamp duty one-off.
But if you can't, then you can't.
Yeah, correct. Correct. Well, you got to lower your expectations with purchase price, I guess, if you can't,
And if you're paying stamp duty as you go, you've potentially got 4% more deposit in your back pocket.
Correct. This is the idea. This is the proposal. It allows you to buy something more desirable. And we haven't spoken about first home buyers as well. So this is huge for first home buyers because it's getting them into the market. So what the proposal is doing for first home buyers, let's just say a property is worth $850. The stamp duty on that is usually $31,000 roughly. What this proposal is doing is that is giving first home buyers $25,000 in cash, and they can and they can avoid paying the $31K stamp duty and opt into the property tax model. So they're about $56K better off as a first home buyer. What's that?
First home buyer doesn't have stamp duty anyway, up to 800 Gs.
Well, if it's 850, if they're buying up to 850 or higher than the threshold, then they will have stamp duty. Yeah.
Yeah, $1 million. So that will definitely help that way, or that second investment property.
I mean, if a first home buyer is cashed up and sort of, ready to buy their first home, they've been waiting and waiting and waiting all this time. Now, it could be a good opportunity next year to jump in and take advantage of this annual property tax model.
And let's face it, our society is happy with pay less now, pay more in the future. Look at how we look at debt, look how we look at credit cards.
Like Afterpay and all those sorts of things.
And as I know Luke saying, Luke Moroney on Facebook, new structure is terrible. People and short-term focus, this will hurt in years to come, as we discussed with the
My God,
more.
Luke's the most positive person I know.
It will lead to more defaults, people getting into property with very little skin. There's always that worry by making loans more accessible, making all the barriers lower, that it will give people money who won't be able to afford it. It does open the doors there. But it just sort of goes off the back of what the economy, regardless of long-term needs stimulation, it needs transactions. Our economy is lacking a lot of other funds, and this just gives a good boost to the property market. Right or wrong, we have all asked for a change, and it looks like something's going to happen.
Just on that topic, with the investment owners, with the property tax, the proposal is that there's also going to be a protection clause in there with deferment of liabilities. So if you have difficulty paying your property tax as you go, the government won't make you sell your property to pay the property tax. They'll work with you in a deferment liability scheme to help you pay that back slowly. So, you're not going to be forced out of not being able to pay it. So there is a protection clause there.
And
Generation X style.
Will this be a deductible? Because I don't believe you can claim back stamp duty.
It is, it will be tax deductible, property tax. Yeah. That's another benefit of it, yeah. That's
a big benefit, because stamp duty you couldn't do anything with, but now you've basically added on another 2, 3, 4 grand.
As an investment owner, investment property owner, yeah.
Okay.
So you're not going to be paying land tax if you're on it. You're going to have 4% you're going to have 4% in your back pocket straight away if you're buying a place, and it's tax deductible. Sounds good to me.
Well, it's substituting land tax for an investment owner if you're over the threshold. So, yeah.
What else, Harry? What are some good and bad things in this? So we've got the tax deductible. You're not going to be forced to sell if you're falling behind or work with you. Lower barrier to enter. Any other big pros or cons?
Yeah, look, I think the big pros are for the first home buyers, just to get them into the market. As I said, there's a huge 25K cash outlay. They could use that to pay the property tax on an annual basis, or they could use that to renovate their property. Look, I think it's going to increase activity. It's going to make real estate agents busier. It's going to create builders, carpenters, electricians, plumbers, because people will start renovating their properties. And the reason why they'll do that is because the property tax is not based on your market value of the property. It's based on the unimproved land value. So you could renovate your property and then sell, and the buyer won't have to pay a huge stamp duty cost on that.
The unimproved, that's not what land tax is based on, because if you buy a unit for 800 grand, usually that land tax value is only 100 grand. Are you saying that, or what you bought it from?
Oh, it's the land value assessed. So it's like council rates, how council rates are assessed. It's on the land value of the property, not the market value.
Because that value of a unit is generally 100,000, even if you paid $1 million for the unit. So you're paying 4% on the, let's say it's 4% on the 100 grand, rather than an upfront 4% on the million. So that's
it's not 4% on the unimproved land value. There's a separate calculation for that.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not a 4% swap. There's a separate calculation for it. But what happens is the valuer's office will value the property, the land, and come back with a land value, and then that's what the property tax is based on.
And do you know what's their proposed figure if that comes back at 100 grand?
Yeah, so the owner-occupier is 0.3% of the unimproved land value plus $500 plus a fixed sum. So that's what it gets to. And then investment owners is 1% of the unimproved land value plus $1,500 per year. So you could see that it's higher rates for investment owners.
Wait, so if it's 100 grand, 1%'s 10%'s 10 grand, 1%'s 1,000 plus 5, so it'll be 1,500. So a typical unit at 800 grand would have that land value of 100 grand. So it's only about $1,500 a year.
Yeah, that's sort of that's the model around it. So you're paying a smaller sum each year compared to a larger outlay.
Sounds around sort of 10% ish. You know, like you said, over 14 years payback. But that's a show. Are you the smartest accountant in Australia? Is this true?
No. Well, it's all public knowledge, Mark. So there's a consultation paper out there. People can have a read of it. It's open to feedback till March.
Consultation paper? Everyone would rather just watch this than read a consultation paper. You had some good oil in this one.
Yeah, well, it's a huge topic. If you are looking to buy, look, might be worthwhile just to wait a little bit and just to see what happens in early next year. Depends on your investment horizon. That's the critical point.
Yeah, it is. I'd love to see if Luke's done a video on this. He's obviously very passionate. I know because Luke's a big long-term wealth creation, and I think a key thing here is you'll have the opportunity to choose.
It's a choice. It's a choice. Exactly right.
It may not be in 5 years. A lot of things that come in with a choice and come in cheaper in 5 years, they're not a choice and they're more expensive. But I think they will gauge it for how it unfolds, the feedback, and then it may not be a choice in 5 or 10 years, and we'll see how it goes.
Oh, look, I see it. I don't see the government changing the goalposts again after this. It will be very difficult. It will be very illogical of them to do so, given they've put this forward and allowed comments to come forward. So, stamp duty was around for 150 years. So I think this new model will be around for quite a long time if it does get passed.
But change it as in getting rid of the old one. Changing it so at the moment, like if they work at two, you reckon?
Yeah, it's again. Yeah, you're right. But I think a lot of people do want to pay that upfront stamp duty cost as well. Yep. I think that's a very desirable thing to do. So I don't see them getting rid of that.
Upfront, and for the government, they would rather get it upfront as well in some cases and have it. They're basically creating two bank accounts, one for upfront payments, which everyone loves upfront payments, or a longer term payment, but they end up getting more. So I think it's not bad. It's good for options, and something.
Definitely. I mean, options are always good. I think options are always good. It opens a door to a lot of investment options and stages, so it helps.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much.
You're a legend, buddy.
Coming on. No problem, guys.
Legend.
All right.
You answered all my questions, and I had a lot of them. And that's a cracker. So thank you so much for coming on the show. It's very hard for people to get a qualified accountant or solicitor to talk on video for free. But your services are available. If anyone needs an accountant, we're going to whack your number in there. And what sort of accounting do you do?
Business services, tax, audit. So the whole lot.
And I've already had your comments in the head bit, and I'll repost them there. So anyone, reach out.
All right, no problem. Excellent. Thanks, guys. Great to chat.
No problem.
All right.
Cheers, Michael.
See ya.
See you.